Good morning. Let me go to this screen and let me get my chat up. Chats, where are you? Hop out. There, thank you. Go sit there. You can go sit there. Okay, I think we are set up, ready to go. Let's open our C# project, and we should probably get hot reload going as well. Okay, ready. So let's see. So yesterday we said we want to make the construction module work essentially. Now, fortunately, we went through this and we realized that a lot of the code kind of is here already, right? Which is good. So it works in a sense. Not 100%, but it works in a sense. So what we need to do now is basically set up the UI, think about how we want to have this thing work actually, and then yeah, once we've done that, we can start testing, because I guess there might be some holes in my code for the simulation side. But I don't know what they are yet, because obviously I haven't really tested it because I don't have a button to click. So let's figure this out. You know what? Let's open Paint. Let's get Paint open and let's get designing on our module here, or our node. First of all, let's just make everything black. That's better, ain't it? Okay, so let's think about this. We have our block, right? So construction node's gonna sit somewhere there. Construction node. Right. I don't know if it says node. It might one day. Let's just... $48. Okay. There we go. So, this is our construction node. Now, I don't really want it to be too complicated, right? If you think about it, what we essentially need, I guess, is... we need it can do two things, right? So technically then I believe we need two buttons at least, right? So let's imagine we have two buttons, and this one is build a structure, right? So we can build a structure. And this one will be build node. Right, so those are the two things we can do. If we are in a place where a structure can be built, that's what it will give me, an option to build a structure. And if we are in orbit of a structure, we can add nodes to it. Right. So that's essentially all we really need to do. Now for the build node button, once this is clicked, Once the node is clicked, we might want a pop-up. Okay, so this is the build node pop-up, and it's probably not going to go on the side, but let's just put it there. And all this thing needs to have is a list of the available nodes. So it's going to be power, not a power node. The power node gets added automatically, I think. Right, it's going to be extraction, processing, research. Actually, is that all the nodes that I really can add to? I guess that is going to be the case. Let me just go check my nodes here. Data, game data. Let's open that up. We look at the nodes. Yeah, we don't have many. Now, some of these... Okay, so the power node, when you build a structure, I essentially have the power node installed automatically. You can see it doesn't have any cost, which means it's already part of the structure, and it's in the cost is in the structure cost, right? So you just get a power node. The reason is because you need power, right? There's no like, oh, I don't want to install a power node option, right? But it's still a node. It functions as a node, but it's just part of the structure. Then extraction, you can add processing, you can add production. So the production node is a special one. You can get... There are two types of structures that will have a production node. It's the manufacturing complex, right? And the shipyard. These two will have that node available. And Vulkan, right? Vulkan is the other one that has that node. So I guess... realistically, I should just have the production module cost wrapped into the cost of these two structures instead, and just have it as part of, have it as part of Vulkan from the start, right? Maybe this thing also doesn't really need a cost. That's possible. So then we only have 3 nodes then. The rest are special cases. So that button never shows special cases, right? The special cases will be built automatically. Logistics also, right? You don't need logistics nodes. If you build a logistics hub, it comes with this node. That's the point. Okay. So we actually just need 3 options here. So maybe we don't even have a pop-up because it's quite the small amount of stuff that we can put in here, right? So what we could do, I guess, is we could just take this, stick it here. Right, that could be a heading and nothing else. And that could be a build structure button. And I'm thinking about the build structure button. What we might do here is we might have it pick up where it is, and this thing might say build structure or build. Let's think about this. So there's also two options here, essentially, right? It's going to be build outpost, essentially. Geez. Okay, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Let me just clean this up here, shall we? There we go. Go to white. So the two structures we will most likely build are outposts and logistics. Logistics. Where in most cases we are building outposts, right? Logistics, that's one per region. Outpost, that's one per sub-region, and there's way more sub-regions. Right, so most of our construction is going to be outpost-centric. Not only because there are more outposts, but also because all the nodes are installed into outposts. Okay. That's fine. I could even have this button. You know what? I could even just replace these. What I could do. I'm just thinking. And this might not be the final way I'm going to do this, right? But let's imagine. Instead of build structure, we have these two buttons. And they appear and disappear based on where I'm located, right? So for instance, if I go to a region that does not have a logistics, if I'm inside a region that does not have logistics installed, we can build logistics. Once it has a logistics hub, this button should basically just go away, and this one should appear if we are in a valid sub-region. Yeah, I think that's going to be the idea. Right, so this build structure thing is going to be jumping about and changing and whatever, and then later on, I can already imagine that I'm going to be doing some other building stuff, but let's think. Yeah, so there might be the manufacturing complex and the shipyard building as well. But I'm not entirely sure how, when, where, and why I'm building those. But I should be able to just make it work, because this doesn't have to be complicated. Okay, so the other thing I want to put here, my guess, is some kind of a progress bar. Some kind of a progress bar that just says, you know, well, I guess we can make it building outpost, something like that. And just something that shows, you know, what we are building currently. And then we could even have a, oh my god, okay, a percentage complete and a nice progress bar. Okay, so that's not too complicated. I think we could do that very easily inside the construction node. Okay, let's go for it, right? Okay, so the panel view. So then I basically need a couple of titles and labels and stuff. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about is, do I create another node panel, which is specifically a construction panel? And then edit it in here? I guess I can do that, right? Yeah, I mean, I have this, the panel view. So I guess I could just connect it to its own thing. Make it a mono behavior. And I could put it in here. I wanna do it that way. Yeah, I mean, it is special enough. It doesn't have any modules or anything like that, so might be fine to just do that. I'm gonna have the same problem with logistics, right? It's also gonna be significant. This one is quite simple. Logistics might be significantly more difficult to work with. So it might not be a bad idea to just create new panels entirely. We just go here and we create empty, and we can do construction node panel. Right. And then we do construction node panel view, extend mono. What? Am I dumb? No, that is how it works. I guess we need some of these things, right? Let's just grab those. Yeah, and then we can do extend a mono behavior. There we go. System reflection. I don't know why that's there. I don't know how these random things get added, because I don't use it here, right? Obviously. Okay, so let's see. We need the view model. We need root container. We're gonna need a UI document. So we could just grab these quickly, stick them in here. But this is now going to be construction node panel view model, root container UI document. These things are the same. All right, so we can just add. Okay, we let it reload first. Take a sip of our coffee. Okay, there we go. Now I think... Oh. Assistant panel is our UI document, I guess, okay. That's okay. We can save this one. Okay, 250 by 580, so file new. Right, let's make it 250 580, and let's add our root container. Okay, and then let's just save this. UI, you are the instruction node panel. Okay, and then we need to create new USS. Instruction node panel. Okay, there we go. So that's sorted. Now, in our root container, so let's think about this. We could just slap things straight in here, right? That shouldn't be a problem, I don't think. Okay, so the first thing we might put... So we might put a label right there. So if I had to think about this, so just a label and then some holder for our progress, bold structure button, and bold node label with 3 buttons, right? Potentially, right? So we have a label. Then we might have a visual element with our progress, essentially. Okay, so this is going to be our progress. Progress holder, this is just the heading. But the heading, I mean, we can give it a name. Or we can put this in there so long. So this is the construction. Actually, now that I think about it, that heading actually doesn't show here, right? Actually, now that I think about it, I do it in the structure panel itself, so we can start with a progress holder. Okay, then we do need a... Is it a label or button? I think it's a button. Button, label, and then let's say 3 more buttons, essentially. Okay, so that's our progress holder. This is going to be our bold structure button. Okay, this label is just gonna say nodes, node heading or something, right? And all it is gonna be bold node. Right, just something like that. It's very straightforward for now. Make it a slightly bigger and maybe even center it. Okay. So essentially it's just we need to build the node, right? And then we have our 3 potential nodes. So the first node, can't remember which ones. Extraction, processing, and node button. You know what? Don't I have node button elements? Yes. We just add this instead, right? Where is the CSS for this? Okay. That I don't remember. So if we search here for USS, I think it might be part of the structure panel, right? Yeah, node button element. Yeah, so it's in here. So if we click on a node, this technically still exists, right? Yeah, okay, but this is what we use to navigate between the nodes. On the structure. I'm just thinking. Yeah, so the structure has this, and I want to reuse this element essentially for my instruction panel. Okay, what if we just this add existing USS? What if I just did structure panel, and now the node button will look like that, which I think is fine, right? Well, it gives us an idea. So these are the nodes. It's the way, well, they look terrible right now, but yeah, that's the idea. And then we can just name them. This one is the extraction node button. Processing node button. And finally, the research node button. Okay, so just something like that. Full node. This button is the build structure button, right? So I did name it. It doesn't do much more than that, but okay. And then finally we have the progress holder, which is massive, right? This is unfortunately now being grown. Let's not grow it too much. What we can do is give it a height that's realistic. Okay, and then I never know. I feel like I just want to stick a visual element in there and give it a height, but not let it grow. It's just a spacer, right? Spacer element. So we have build node, there are the 3 nodes. Spacer, build structure, so we can actually do build logistics hub. But if we call this something else, buildable nodes, buildable nodes, something like that. Buildable nodes, something to that extent. Make it smaller, buildable nodes, and then we make buildable structure. Logistics hub. Right, just something like that. Yeah. I think so. Maybe I want to make this thing a... Well, I can give it a texture, right? So let's see, sprite. Where will it sit? Okay, so it sits on the side there, which is fine. Okay, let's work with this a little bit. So bold structure. We can give it a... Okay, I'm not liking what this picture is doing currently. How do we change that though? Maybe we just make our own. Let's see here. Icon selector, root container, custom elements, node button element. Let's open this. Yeah, so what I'm thinking is we just do something like this, but for structure button element. I mean, I don't need a custom element. Do I need a custom element? This is the only place we're ever gonna click on it, right? Okay, you know what? Let's just build one ourselves. So there's gonna be build structure button, right? And I'm actually going to remove that part. Add to it a visual element and a label. Right, just like that. This is the icon. Okay, so first of all, you don't grow. And you have a height, 45. That seems reasonable. Then you can also not sit like that. Okay, where's that again? I can't remember. Okay, here we go. Direction, like so. Icon label. Icon, we can make you, 45 by 45. Have you not grow? Boom, put everything like that. Yeah, so these are... Yeah, they have a margin of 5 all around, so it's not a bad idea. Let's do that. Let's just give it a bit of a picture here so I can see what it's doing. Sprite. Really doesn't matter, just some random thing. Should be fine. Okay, this is the structure name inside of that, and we could just call this logistics hub, right? Nothing fancy. And we make it a little bigger now because it can fit 22, and we give it, I don't know, 5. Right, just something like so. And then do we have a nice texture? I mean, it's a texture. I wouldn't say it's nice, but whatever. That's our button now. And, you know, we can even make it a nice... And there we go. I mean... we got a button, right? Buildable structure, logistics hub. Okay, and then we can click on it, and then I guess it'll start building. Right. Now, obviously, okay, so what I would probably have to do here, first of all, the spacer might not be required at all. Right? For now, it might be because I'll just have everything showing at the same time. But what I'm thinking in the future is, you know, it'll be smart about it. So when you are, you know, when you are orbiting some place where a structure can be built, you can see the buildable structure. If you can't build any structures, then that just goes away. Right? And the same with the nodes. If you are in orbit of an outpost that exists, that's great. We can show this. But that also means we don't have to show a buildable structure because there's already a structure there, an outpost, and if there's an outpost, it means there must be a logistics hub also. So a lot of this, I guess, can go away, right, as we do things. Okay, but anyway, I guess this is good enough for now. Let's... Okay, the progress holder, we need to think about that. We need to build a progress bar, to be honest. Yeah, I need to build like my own progress bar because I don't know. You know what? Let me do something here quickly. I haven't downloaded my Cinti assets yet, but we can just go check. This is not mine. And this is just a new thing. And let's go UI. So I think I have the sci-fi menus asset and sci-fi soldier. Which I think will fit the game, right? So they have some pretty cool looking loading bar stuff. More sliders, right? This is more... I think that's what these are. Progress bars. Or though they might be sliders. This is for... yeah, scrolling and changing volume or something. I don't know. Whatever you use a slider for, right? Okay, well, let's just go back and check. Okay, some of these might be good. Yeah, I'll probably do something like this. Just a couple of frames and stuff like that. Go look at some of the example stuff they have. I mean, this looks pretty great. I'll just use this for my main menu. And they don't really show an example of a loading bar. Oh wait, there we go. Yeah, okay, so something like that. Okay, what do we have here for the soldier UI? Yeah, okay, so we also have nice bars for things like health and ammo and stuff like that, which I guess we can repurpose, right? Yeah. Status, oxygen, health. I'm assuming these frames can be overlaid on top of the bar. Okay. Okay, so let's create a custom element called progress bar then. Right. So let's just go scripting empty C# script progress bar. Right. We'll create a progress bar. It's going to be public partial class progress bar extend visual element, right? And we're going to give it UXML element. Progress bar. Right, something like that. Now, so if I understand correctly how these things are built, we effectively have a background. Then on top of that, we have a the bar itself, and then on top of that we have our frame. Something like that, right? So the background itself, I guess, could be the bar. That's where everything sits on top of. Right, so that's the progress bar itself. Yeah, I think that's fine. Public progress bar. Let's just get our constructor going here. Okay, so we have a visual element bar, right? Visual element private. Visual element. I guess this could be our progress actually. And then this one could be our frame, which is in front of that, right? Okay. So the first thing, I've been trying to do this. Want to be consistent here. Where did I do this? Oh, damn. Okay, I can't. This is a existing thing, so I need to rename this. My progress bar. Right. What? Oh, yeah, I have a construction progress bar. That was kind of a bit of a problem there. Okay, let's just recompile again and make sure everything is fine. I think I accidentally made an oopsie by overwriting something in Unity's namespace, right? Because I don't think I've made a progress bar. Yeah, this is my progress bar now. First one at least. Can I rename you? Okay. Okay, we're back there. Okay, progress, we have the frame. Okay, we need to add a class list, but I can't remember what I did for the naming. Damn it, man, I did this recently and I can't remember. Okay, let's just close this. What UI did I work on recently? It was my production. No, I think it was something smaller than that. Maybe one of these shared custom elements. Let's see. Credits. No. Yeah, this one. So I want to do this thing for all of them, right? Or for all my new things, I want to try to do this. I give it a string like this. Call it my progress bar. Yeah. And then add to class list USS class name. Right. Start like that. Yeah. And then we go progress equals new and frame equals new. So we create those elements, and then progress dot add to class list, and we do something like that, plus underscore progress, right? And then we do the same for frame. Okay, so just something like that. Okay, so it's now my progress bar, progress and frame. And now we can also add progress and the frame, right? Okay. So now they are created. That's good. Okay, and essentially, if I have this correct, so I think frame dot style dot position. I want to make it absolute, so basically in front. I can't remember how to do that unless I go to icon selector. Because I do it here. Position.absolute. Okay, I could have guessed. Right, just basically making it be on top. So it's forced to be on top. The progress is at below that, and then our progress bar just stacks everything on top of itself, right? Yeah, I think that's okay. Okay, so now the important part is the progress needs to become longer and shorter. You know what else we could have? A private label. Progress text, right? We could do that as well. Progress text equals new, right? And I think we add that, add progress text. Something like that. Okay. Now, how does this thing get positioned? I almost feel like it should also be absolute. Okay, the frame will be on top of it, but yeah, I don't want it to be below progress necessarily. It can be inside progress. Yeah, or we could just put all of the stuff, stack them on top of one another, right? So progress will be at the bottom. Well, our background would be at the bottom, then progress on top, progress text on top of that, frame on top of everything. That should work unless the frame is not transparent. Then we have a different problem. Okay, but we should have a public void set progress, right? Something like that. And do we want math to be done here? So, in other words, hey, Indian bike, how's it going? What are you asking? How to make a pink? What does that mean? Okay, so the question here is, do we want this thing to do the math itself? Or we just want to give it a progress amount? Well, we need to give it an integer of some sort, or a float or something. So I guess if we give it a float, we can work with that, right? Rahul, how's it, man? I'll probably not remember that and just call you Indian bike. I'll remember it for a short while, but I'll probably forget, to be honest. Okay, so we get the progress as a float, and essentially what we want to do is this progress over here, we want to change its length. No, I want to change this progress bar, because it is technically a bar, right? Okay, then we go progress bar. Okay, so there's now a few ways we could change this. It's probably style dot width. Right, now we can say progress, but that's not gonna go well. I think we do length dot percent, and then we give it the progress. Right, essentially, and then we can do progress text dot text equals okay, now we have a string that we need to format. What am I doing? I'm building a game, so you could see, well, currently I'm trying to get this UI working. And now there's an error. Okay, yeah, it's because I exited the progress bar. Yeah, okay, but this is the UI for the construction panel. It looks like shit because it's currently work in progress, right? I'm just putting placeholder stuff, so I know it works. But yeah, this is more of the game. So this is a space mining and logistics simulation game, right? So the idea is you build out a logistical system throughout the solar system. You gather resources from all these planets, asteroid belt, etc. And then, you need to set up the logistics in such a way that everything can be where it needs to be, and you can produce more resources, do some research, etc., etc. And yeah, and then there's an end game goal of reaching the solar system edge where there's a wormhole that you're trying to get to. What is floating about over here? Oh. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea, right? A quick, easy version. The main thing I want to have this do is be very. It should be a logistics game. So the idea would be that, normally in a game like this, if you think about games that have in space, generally speaking, a lot of the time your materials just kind of teleport wherever they need to go, right? So I'm thinking of games like Endless Space, Stellaris, these types of games where, well, I understand why that's the case, is because logistics isn't the core of the game. But yeah, if you want metal, you can set up a mine somewhere and the metal will just be available everywhere in the whole universe, right? I don't want that. I want to focus in on the logistical problem of having a spacefaring civilization. And I say, okay, you can mine and you can process, you can do all these things, so that's there. But the material will have to be shipped in between these places, right? So you have to set up a clever logistical supply chain for everything to function the way it should. But yeah, that's kind of, in short, what I'm trying to accomplish here. But right now, I'm building UI. Because it turns out... let me just check my microphone, because if I don't keep my eye on this thing, it could just change volume. So you can imagine that a game like this requires a lot of feedback, essentially. Right, you need the UI, right, the interface to give you a lot of information all the time. And a lot of what you are doing when you are managing your supply chain or whatever is clicking buttons in an interface. So I'm trying to build that interface, and it's a lot of work. I see something here. Production behavior element. I did a clever thing with the progress. No, that's right. This is how you do it in a clever way. So you just take the progress, you stick it in there, and I think it formats it as a percentage. Right? I believe that's what this thing does. So it takes the progress, formats it as a percentage, and then we're done. Okay, so that's it. That's I guess a lot of the... That's the only thing we really need to change for the progress bar, I believe. Okay, obviously we need to change all our, or we need to add all our classes, so that, or our selectors, so that we can actually make it look good. Yeah, so I think I'll put these inside of my default theme, so they at least exist there. Okay, so let's just throw this to the side here. Default theme. Yeah, I don't think I have. No, I don't. Okay, so we'll just add my progress bar. Okay, like so. And then we duplicate that twice, and we add underscore underscore progress. And then we have progress dash text. And frame, right? Frame. Okay. So now they should at least exist in our UI. You know what? I'm gonna add. Okay, so first of all, my progress holder sits up there. So inside that, I want to now add my new progress bar. Okay, so it looks like nothing currently, but it's there with all its stuff. Okay, so what I want to do, I guess we need to get our existing USS UI. No, this is not where that lives. This lives in resources USS. Default theme. We add the default theme. Okay, here we go. Here's our progress bar. So first of all, the progress bar size we can set right here. Let's just make it 35. I don't know if that's correct, but anyway. Okay, so it needs a background. For the background, I guess, you know, just solid black for now would be okay. Okay, so the progress itself. So this is the bar on top of that one. Just make it a green color. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is now. This is this thing, right? Yes. Okay, so first of all, progress is that green color, and the height should be 100%. The width in percentage can be anything, right? It needs to move up and down. Okay, the progress text. Okay, so the height 100% and 100%, right? It needs to fill the entire thing. Yep. Oh, and we could, I suppose, just give it some kind of a number there so we can actually see it, right? Yeah, so progress text equals, you know, 0% for now. Otherwise, we won't be able to see it in our UI builder. Okay, there we go. There's our 0%. So that's our progress text. Now all we need to do is just have it placed in the middle there. And we can give it a slightly larger size. Let's just make it 18. So 0%. Okay. Now the frame. This part can get a little bit complicated. Let's just go check the frame quickly. Okay, so the first thing is the frame needs to be full size. Percentages, okay. So the frame, I believe, is already absolutely placed. Yes, so it's just on top of everything. So now we just need to get it a nice texture or sprite of some sort. Now, I don't think I have anything that'll work. Yeah, I don't. Let's go to check in the textures. But I highly doubt it, right? Digital square. I mean, technically that's almost a frame. Looks terrible though. Okay, I guess we're just gonna live with terrible for now. What happens if I stretch it? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't stretch very nicely. Okay, but one day we'll have a proper frame and it will look good, right? So we'll get there eventually. Okay, now what we can also do is we can give this thing some margins if I wanted. Okay, no, let's not do that. Unset that. Thank you. But yeah, the margin and sizing and stuff like that, that's not the... I wonder if we can make the text just change automatically in size. We can. Okay, that's good. If you just make it 90% of the height. Okay, that's kind of cool then. Apparently that's not what it's doing, though. Huh. Yeah, I don't know what that does then. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. That's my bad progress bar for now. Well, we should also maybe do... Maybe we just put a label so we know what we're building. Okay, current construction label. Alright, just something like that so we know what we're building and we can say we are building nothing. Idle. Idle? Idle. Okay, and we could just, you know, make it center, whatever. Okay. That should work. Okay, I think we have everything. And now we just need to write the code to actually interface with this stuff, right? Well, yes. Don't do that. Okay. So, let's just go do some coding. One other thing, I think I need to open my structure panel. Right, we have this node panel holder with a node panel inside of it. So essentially what we need to do now is add our construction node panel, right? In there. Like so. Yeah, essentially that's what we need to do. But it's going to be hidden. But okay. We just need to do that so that we can access it through our panel views. Okay, so let's see. Node panel holder. There you are. And then my node panel. How do you get access to... Okay, so you can get access to the document like that. The root container. How do you get access to that? Okay, we look for the node panel root container. Okay, so we basically have to do something like this then. Let's just grab that, stick it in there. Right, a lot of this is not going to work because we don't have a module holder or a module selection holder, so we can get rid of those ones. So we're not going to look for the node panel, we're going to look for construction node panel instead. And then get the root container in that. But our root itself would be the document. Yeah, that's fine. And display style, none. Okay, perfect. So we just make it disappear initially. Right. Okay, so let's just open this up. You know what? Just want to put this on the side here. That way I can look at it and see all the things I need to add, right? Okay. So apart from those things, what we need access to. So each of the buttons, essentially. Oh. Okay, so let's see. First of all, we have our progress holder. And inside the progress holder, we have our label and my progress bar. Okay, so we need to get access to those. So private. Do we need access to those? I guess we do, because we're going to change them, right? Yeah. You know what? I'm going to open the construction panel itself again. That way I can just click on this thing, get its name. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing is just a label. And it's the current construction label. Right. Okay, then we have private my progress bar. Progress bar. Okay, that's fine. I believe that's fine, at least. We're gonna hope it's fine. Okay, but that's the first two things we need. Okay, then we just have buildable structure, node heading. I guess. So I want that to go away. Or do I just want it to be blank? I don't know. Let's just make it be blank now. So for now, what I'm going to get is private. And I'm going to grab this bold structure button, which is just a visual element that I created, right? So visual element, bold. Now I don't like doing this. I'm going to copy this instead. Because otherwise... Okay. I just want to make sure the labels here and here are consistent. Okay, so inside this thing, but we just need that, and then we can get the icon and structure name inside of that if we need it. Okay. It's just a space and node heading. Okay, then we have node button elements. So private node button elements. Right, and we have 3 of them. Extraction, processing, and something else. And I believe I didn't make any spelling mistakes. Okay, so that's everything I think I'm gonna have to access and edit somehow, right? So let's grab them. So, current construction label equals root container dot q. We are looking for a label, right? And the label's name is in fact just the same thing. Boom. Okay, then progress bar equals root container dot q. My progress bar. Right, I don't think I didn't give it a name, but there's only one progress bar, so it'll get the first of that type, and that's okay. Okay, then we have bold structure button. Okay, no, it's just a visual element. And fortunately we did give it a name. So we can find it, no problem. Okay, then we have these 3. Okay. Okay, that's pretty straightforward, right? I believe so. Now, I also believe that when we use these node buttons, like we do in structure view, panel view, at least I think we use them here. Okay, yeah, we do register callbacks. Okay. Yep. That's what I thought. Okay, so for each of these, we're going to register a callback. This one as well. Dot register callback. Never remember how to do stuff. Pointer down event here. Okay, so that's pointer down event. Right. Okay, we need to create a function and then call it, right? I think we can also do EVT. Like that. So we can also just do a bunch of those. Which honestly, I think is exactly what I'm gonna do. Okay, so the registered callbacks. Yeah, see, normally I do node button element unregister callbacks. Okay, so this is something I'm not sure about. Let's go ask ChatGPT. Because I don't know how this works exactly, so let's just ask it. So I know it's a good idea to unregister callbacks, right? So whenever I have a register callback, I need to unregister as well, which I totally want to do. The question is just, if I do it with Lambda functions, how do I unregister from the Lambda functions? Fine, so... Okay, so I have a bunch of visual elements, and I register callbacks with pointer down events. And I just call a Lambda function. Okay? Now, when I close that particular bit of UI, I want to unregister the callback. Now, normally, if I call a proper function, not a Lambda function, I know how this works. But how do we unregister from a Lambda function? I don't know why, but whenever I talk to ChatGPT, it turns down my volume. Okay, so we have to store the callback. So we do the callback, we give it a name, and then this is just a function, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah. Just add a normal method. I thought so. Okay, fine. Fine, I'll stop being lazy. Okay, so first of all, I can add a structure. Private void on... Okay, so this is going to be... Okay, so we're going to do the on build structure, click and pointer down event. I'm going to grab that one, and that way we can do here on build structure click, right? So that works. Now for the other ones, I'm kind of contemplating on build node clicked. Right, what I'm thinking here is we do a pointer down event. So we have that, right? But we also get a string or something else so that we know which one of these buttons we would click. Now, if we go look at the node button element, it seems to have a node in it. Wow. That's a very interesting that I just give it a node. And then what do I do with that node? I actually do. Okay, so I do the same thing here where I register with a node. Yeah, okay, so it's because I need to give a node to my UI manager to set the node panel view. Very interesting, very interesting. Okay. But I could do a similar thing where I take a node in, right? And in this case, then what I'll do on build node clicked. Okay, that's the way you do it. So, and we'll do dot node, right? Huh? Why does that not work? Isn't that the same thing? Oh, I didn't give it a second. Okay, sorry. Sorry, ne. You also give out a node. Right, something like that instead. Yeah. So we get a node there, we get a node there, and we essentially call this function. Okay, we just need to put in the right buttons here. Research. Okay, so that works. So now we call it with the node. So now we at least have some information about which button was clicked. And on structure clicked, that's just an event. What structure it is that we are building will have to be dependent on what structure was available for building. Right, and that changes. Yeah, that'll change, right? Okay. So at least this part makes sense now. So we have our register callbacks and stuff. Also then public void clear. Right, we need to clear as well. I do the same thing with my normal node panel view. I hope. Yeah, so I have this clear function which is called when this panel is closed, essentially, right? Now, most of what it needs to do is just unregister callbacks, right? So we want build structure button dot unregister callback, and let's just see. Okay, so it's essentially exactly the same. We just don't give it the node thing. Okay, cool. So in this case, unregister, it's going to be pointed down event again. And then we just give it the function, which is on build structure clicked. Right, and then the other three unregister callback, pointer down event, node, on build node clicked, right? That's it. And we just do that. And we do the same for extraction and research, right? There we go. Now we can call the clear when this thing is being closed. Okay, goody. So now we can at least register and unregister, which is perfect. Okay, I think the next bit would be my view model itself, right? Yeah, okay, so I have a couple of... I've registered a few things here already. Now, this is a funny one. Sometimes I register... Like if we go to the view model of my structure panel view, I don't think I do that here. It's got access to the view model, so it could call it a direct. Where did I do all the flipping? I think it was with my production, right? Yeah, I register. Now I could do the same thing when this is clicked. I could just have an action sent to my view model. And it does something. Or I could just call a function straight in my view model. That's such an annoying thing that I do, where I'm not consistent. It's kind of annoying. But anyway. So we might have to reflect that. So this is the glue holding my simulation and my UI together, right? It's my view model. So I could... Since the view is known and the view model is known by the view, I could just have functions straight connected there. So basically this thing calls a function in my view model. Or I could have a action event fire that does something here. I'm just going to do straight up function calls. So public void on build structure. Build structure clicked. Right, just something like that. And then public void build node clicked. Okay, and all I'm gonna call this one needs a node as well. Right, so just something simple like that. Okay, so right here I'm gonna go view model dot build structure clicked. Just call it straight like that, and yeah, we're gonna go view model dot build node clicked, and I'm just going to give it the node, right? So that's fine. This thing doesn't really need any fancy logic. The fancy logic happens in the view model and in the simulation side. Okay, so this is what happens. So we click on build structure, we click on build node. Now we need to do something with our construction node. So try start build structure with the structure definition. Righto. So this is now where it gets interesting. Where does the structure definition come from? So I said you give it one, but now I'm thinking maybe not. Maybe the structure you can build is dependent on where you are currently. least somewhat. Now this might fail. This might fail later, to be honest. Because I wanted to infer what structure can be built. But I'm thinking about later on when I build my larger structures. That's not necessarily how I want it to behave. I want to be able to click on that button specifically. Then I want to disable that button because you can only have one of those. So the construction node, look, it knows the structure. So we can figure out where Vulcan is, right? So what we could do is something like this. So we can call this tribal structure without having a it's very interesting as well. How do I have a node in my button? That's because the node already exists, right? Now that I think about it, that button... Yeah, okay, wait, I'm just thinking about my node button elements. Yeah, it adds the nodes. Okay. That doesn't quite work then. Right, we're not going to use those. So right here where we click on the nodes, I don't think this is going to work. No, it won't. We need a node definition or something like that. Yeah, we also didn't actually create these nodes, right? They were just hanging around already. So if you look at the node button element, yeah, we need to give it a node. And it goes and it gets the definition and the same here. Okay, so that's not going to work. So our node button elements are already broken. Okay, so that's a problem. Okay, but before I go there, let's think about this bit first. So when we build a structure, we normally want a structure definition, but let's say we don't get one, right? So then I think what we need to do when we build structure, somehow I want this thing to always know what structures can be built. Let's try a different approach. Public I'm a little bit spinning my wheels right now. Essentially what I want to do is I want to ask this thing. Based on where Vulcan is currently, what can we do in terms of structures? So it needs to return something like an ID. So a string, tell me I can build an outpost, right? So essentially structures, it says, look, you can build an outpost here. You can build a logistics hub. That's your two options, right? So I could have it return that, or I needed to return a definition. Now, the problem with a definition is I need access to a definition database. Now, fortunately, Vulcan has that, and I can get it here. But even then, I need to still give it a string in order to get the definition. Right, so I'm putting strings somewhere. I really can't get around it. But at least, yeah, okay. So what I could do is I could return a definition, right? Is it an I definition? What is inside my definition database? I don't know. Yeah, I definition. So I could return an I definition. Yeah. Okay, and this would be something like build able structure. Okay, so essentially when we call buildable structure, we want to know where we are. So we want to get a couple of things from Vulcan. We need to get the region we are in. So region. Current region, and we need to get sub-region. Current sub-region. Right. Now from Vulcan we can get these Vulcan dot current region, right, and Vulcan current sub-region, right? We could just find that. Now this doesn't work. Okay, so Vulcan doesn't allow us to access the sub-region. Why? Do I need to ask? I need to know if Vulcan is stationary first, right? So is anchored. And is anchored does get set here when we are anchored in a region. And current sub-region gets set okay, travel region we need to check as well. So Vulcan regional needs to not be traveling. Okay, so we need to check a couple of things then. Okay, so current region we can check simply by doing that. Vulcan dot Vulcan region dot I wonder why my current sub-region doesn't want to give me anything, right? So that must be inside of structure then. I mean, it's public. Okay, so we could do that. I'm just being stupid. I don't know if I want... Okay, maybe I do out... No, maybe I return a boolean, right? And then I have an out I definition. Something like that. Right, so here's the idea. So we go. We have to check a few things. So buildable structure, if Vulkan dot is anchored, right? If Vulkan is anchored, it means we are in a region. Right, is anchored gets set to true when we anchor in a region. Then we set our current region, so we need to make sure that we are anchored. Now, once we start moving, we set it to false, right? Start system travel, it gets set to false again. Okay, this is a mess, but anyway. Anyway, so we need to be anchored. So actually, if we are not anchored, we'll just return false, right? Okay, we can just set definition to null, and we return false. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to do. Now, if Vulkan is anchored, so we are anchored, but actually what's more interesting is if Vulkan dot Vulkan regional something with travel region. Okay, so if we are traveling in the region. Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to do here, right? So, first of all, if we are anchored, that's good. So we get past this. Now we can check if the current region we are in has a logistics hub. Right, so what we can do is we can do if Vulkan dot current region, because we are anchored, dot logistics hub is equal to null. Right, I'm guessing that's something that could happen. So if we don't have a logistics hub, that region will simply not have a... I can't remember. Okay, so let's see. When we create a region, okay, we need to add a logistics hub. Okay, so we could get the logistics hub, but it will just be nothing, right? So it's null. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. So if our current region's logistics hub is equal to null, then what we can do is we can say definition equals Vulkan.definition database definitions. Right, and what we need to give this thing is a string, and the string needs to be logistics hub essentially if we want the definition for a logistics hub. Right, so that's going to be the idea. and then we return true. So essentially we get to this point and we're like, cool, you are anchored in a region. That's great. And we see there's no logistics hub. That's also great. So you can build a logistics hub. Right? So we return true in this case. So there is a buildable structure and we have a definition for it. Fantastic. Now, the next bit. So if we get past here, it essentially means we have a logistics hub already. Now that's good, because then we can check, are we traveling in the region? If we are, just return false, and then definition is still null, right? Now, if we are not traveling in the region, we can say if, that means we have a Vulkan.current subregion, right? It exists. .outpost. If the outpost is equal null, then we can do a few things. So first of all, we can get our definition is equal then Vulkan dot definition database dot underscore definitions, and we essentially want just an outpost, right? So we get the definition for an outpost and we return true. There we go. Okay, we don't need this. Okay, so let's imagine then, so we go through this and we say, okay, fantastic. We start with a null definition. If we are not anchored, we just return false. That's fine. Now, if we are anchored and there is no logistics hub, what we can build is a logistics hub. And we can build, so we return true. I guess we could just, you know what, let's change this. So we can just do just do that. And then we do return null, right? Which basically means we can't build anything. We could just do that. Oh wait, no, I'm being stupid. I can't return null there. But yeah, so if Vulkan isn't anchored, just return null. If Vulkan current region is equal to null, then we return that. Otherwise, we return null again. Then right here, we just return this. Okay, so essentially there are a couple of ways. And then finally, we return null if we get all the way to the bottom here and nothing happened, right? So if we are not anchored, we return null. Okay, but if we are anchored and there isn't a logistics hub, we return the definition for logistics hub. If we are anchored, there is a logistics hub, but we are moving around in the region, we return null. If we are anchored, there is a logistics hub, we are not moving, that means we have a sub-region. But the outpost is empty, we return the definition for an outpost. If we are just sitting somewhere and there is an outpost, analytics hub, and even if we are not traveling, it doesn't matter, just return null because we can't build anything there. Hey Brody, how's it going, man? Ooh, I think I need more coffee. La 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 la. I'm doing well, thank you. I'm just tired. Well, I'm not that tired, but I need coffee. So now I'm thinking is, do I just want to change this to buildable definition, essentially? And what I can do then is I can continue this reasoning, right? And I could be like, oh, okay, cool. So we are not traveling. There is an outpost. And then we can essentially say, okay, cool. Well, if there's an outpost, if, you know, that outpost. Okay, now I don't remember everything anymore. But I've not been remembering everything for a while. Let's just go look at an outpost. So there's a node capacity here, right? Which is private. We can add a node, we can remove a node. We can check if we have enough node capacity. So we could actually just call this. So if dot enough a node capacity, right? So if we have any node capacity. Okay, now it doesn't work anymore. Because now I kind of want it to be just getting a true. Okay, so for this then, we'll just do buildable structure. Okay, and then here we can do public boolean can build node. Something like that, and this just returns this thing. Vulcan, current subregion, outpost. Right, it returns that essentially, but we need a few guard clauses, which are essentially all these, kinda. Is anchored. If it's not anchored, we just return false. If the logistics hub equals null, false, so there's no logistics hub. We are moving around, that's false. If the outpost is also null, we return false, right? So there's all our guard clauses. Let's make this look nice. Righto, something like that. So we basically have a bunch of guard clauses just so we don't try and access an outpost if we don't have any reason to access that outpost. And then finally, once we know that there is an outpost, we can just check if it has enough nodes. And if it does, we can do something about it, right? Okay. I kind of want to do if is constructing, just return null as well. Or false even. In this case, we just do null. Okay, we have a bunch of checks and balances everywhere, so it's for the can building we have checks, but to try building we also have checks, so everything should be safe, right? Okay, so this thing returns a definition. It could probably return a structure definition instead. Right. And then we just have to do as structure definition, right? They are structure definitions, but yeah. Now we're just a little bit more specific about it. Okay. So what we can build now has a definition behind it. And can build no just tells me true or false. And then we can pass in, when we try build structure, we can give it the definition. I don't know if this is necessary, right? We can just give it the definition. Yeah. Alternatively, I could have... Now, I'm going to return this so that it tells me what structure I can build later. Okay, before I continue, I'm gonna go grab me some coffee. Grab some coffee and send some over to Brody all the way in Australia land. Okay, I'll be right back. I have returned. This thing needs to go away. There we go. Seems working. Like it's working, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's continue. Okay, so we have now a couple of functions that can help us out on the view model side of things, right? So build structure gets clicked. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But what I'm thinking is it should have been set first, right? Because if you think about it, the UI should know what kind of structure you are building or wanting to build, what's available, right? Before we click the button. So we should set it somehow. So the view panel needs to ask the construction node, hey, what can we build currently? So there's a few ways we could now try this. We need events or something like that. Let's say from Vulkan, for instance, where Vulkan obviously moves around and things happen, like Vulkan becomes anchored or whatever. Right, we set the sub-region or we set the current region. These two things, when they happen, we could have a event fire that essentially just tells our node, our construction node, listen, something changed with the positioning of Vulkan. Check if we can do, what can we build here, what can we do here, and let the view model know if it exists. Something like that, or update it internally, keep a record of it. The view model can then ask you later. That kind of thing. That's a little complicated. Yeah, I need to think about this now. What would be a good way of getting this to work? It's essentially, it's kind of like a state, right? Sort of like a state machine. That's changing. We need to think about this. Where Vulkan is, what Vulkan is doing. Now, I might have to update just all of this because it's a little clunky right now. Right. So let's do this. Let's store the state of Vulkan in Vulkan itself, right? Yeah, so, or something like a state. Don't really know how. If it needs to be a state or just a boolean, like a boolean can build, right? Just something like that. A build can build boolean, right? And then we need to basically switch this thing on and off depending on different things happening. Right, so for instance, Okay, let's go look at the movement, right? So this is the regional Vulcan and solar system Vulcan. So let's start on the solar system level. Okay, so we have access to Vulcan here. Start system travel. So, okay, so if we start system travel, it checks, are we currently traveling? If we are, just don't try anything. If Vulcan is busy with the construction, don't do anything. Okay. Otherwise, we set current region to null, is anchored to false, start travel, and now I want to change can build, which is kind of like a state. I kind of want to keep so let's think about this as well. So public enum state. Right, what can Vulcan be doing? So it could be travel in solar system, right? Travel in solar system. It could be traveling in the solar system. It could be travel in region, right? And then it could be constructing, right? Or it could be idle. Right, those are kind of, and technically we should maybe just put idle at the start, right? So the default state is just idle, right? And effectively what we can do is, if we are traveling in the solar system, or we are traveling in the region, or we are constructing, if any of these are true, we can't build, right? So that just doesn't work. So we need to be idle to be able to build. Okay, there's other things that need to be true to be able to build. Like, do I have enough resources? Where am I idling specifically? Things like that, right? But this is essentially what we are doing with Vulcans. One of these things. And I kind of want to get rid of these booleans. Okay, so let's do as state public state state. We can do a get private set, I guess. Right, so everybody can know what state we are in, but not everybody can do anything about it. Public void set state. Right, we'll just do a proper state machine here. And we'll take in a state. Okay, so this will kind of be the idea. And there will be a couple of things that we can't do. So if state, this, okay, let's call this new state. Right, so if our states is equal to state.constructing. What do we check out new state? The only thing we can do from constructing is go to idle. So if we go and new state equals state.idle, right? Then we can set our state equals to state.idle. Or, well, just new state for that matter. New state, right? Else, we just return. Okay, so basically if our state is constructing and our new state is idle, we can change it to idle. Otherwise, we just return. Right, that's a very important one because we can't go, oh, we're busy constructing, now we want to travel. Sorry, you can't do that. It needed to be set to idle first. Okay, and then if our state does not equal state dot constructing, so then we don't really care. If we're not constructing currently, we are traveling in some way, then we can just set state equals to new state, right? And I guess we could do that first. So if we are not constructing, just set the new state and return. Right, we're fine. If we are constructing and our new state is idle, we can also set the new state. Otherwise, we just fail the state change and we return. Right, okay. So something like this, and maybe this can now make things a little bit more straightforward. Yeah, so anchored is kind of pointless if you think about it, because if we are not traveling in the solar system or in a region, that must mean we are anchored. If our state is idle, we are anchored. Or if our state is constructing, we are anchored. Essentially. Right, so this is kind of pointless, essentially now. So let's do that and see what that means for us, right? So anchor in region. So that sets our region. Okay, so this arrives at region Vulcan. Okay, we need to figure this out now. But let's think about solar system travel. Okay, so we have start, travel in system. So I actually want to get rid of these booleans. I want everything to just go straight to our state. So Vulcan dot state equals state dot travel in solar system. Just return, right? So if we are already traveling in the solar system, don't worry about it. Then if our state is equal to constructing, just return. And actually, I want to take out this boolean as well. I want to get all these state booleans out of here. Let's see, regional, so we have one as well for regional travel. All that nonsense, get out of here. Okay, so solar system travel. When we want to start traveling in the solar system, we need to check. Are we already moving around? Or are we busy constructing? If you are just moving in the region, I guess it's fine. Okay, we'll think about that one still. Okay, but we're now moving to a new region. And okay, so when we start traveling, we go Vulcan current region is equal to null. Okay, so then what we want to do is Vulcan.set state. And our new state is travel in solar system, right? That is what we are doing. We don't have to set that. We don't have to worry about that. We are now traveling in the solar system. That's good. Okay, move Vulcan in system. Okay, this is just the thing that we call to actually do the movement. Okay. So if our state is not equal to travel in solar system, we just return, right? Because there's no point in trying to calculate anything of these things if we are not currently traveling through the solar system. So that makes complete sense. Okay, and if we arrive at our region, what we need to do is a bunch of stuff, but travel system is equal to false, or Vulcan dot set state to idle. We have arrived. We also anchor in region. Okay, you know what? Maybe then we don't set the state to idle there. We just anchor in region. And as soon as we anchor in region, we can also just do set state to state.idle. Right, when we arrive at a destination. And it should work out because we are not currently constructing, we were moving. And our new state is going to be idle, which is always an option. Okay, so that helps our solar system travel. Now let's look at our regional travel. Okay, I'm doing this log stuff, but essentially what we want here, if Vulcan dot state equals travel in region, we are already traveling in the region. And if Vulcan dot state is constructing, we are busy constructing, right? So that's the same thing. Okay, and then here we want to do Vulcan dot state dot Vulcan dot set state, and we want to basically set it to traveling in region, right? And over here, if we're moving Vulcan, it should not be equal to. If we are not traveling in region, please don't try and move Vulcan. Okay, finally set sub-region, so arrive at regional destination. We set our sub-region over here. And then we can also set state dot idle. Right, we arrived somewhere. We are not doing anything anymore. Okay, that cleans up quite a bit of this. In my mind, at least, I feel it's cleaner. Might not be cleaner, but anyway. Feels cleaner. We could get rid of this nonsense and this nonsense, this nonsense. Right, just clean up some stuff. Yeah, we don't need to set the field type anymore because it's set automatically to volatile matter, I believe, by default. Okay, now we have something to work with, right? So now our construction node can set the state of Vulcan if needed. Wow. Okay. Let me take a sip of this. It obviously broke quite heavily. Okay, so let's see. So if is so what do we have? Oh, okay, yeah, it's just the private bit. Okay. So let's see. So what we could do here is we can now do if value. So if it's true, right, we can now do Vulkan.set state constructing, right? So if is constructing is true, we can tell Vulkan, you know what, start constructing, right? Okay, and yeah, we can check. Okay, buildable structure. So we check if Vulkan is anchored essentially. Well, basically, Vulkan needs to be idle. Right, so Vulkan.state needs to be equal to state.idle, right? If Vulkan's state is idle, wait a minute, if it's not idle, actually, if it's not idle currently, it means it's either constructing, or it's moving, right? We can actually take out this check, but you know what, we can leave it there. No, why not? So if Vulkan is not idle, we return null, right? And it's the same idea here. Vulkan needs to be idle. Oh my word! Ah, my word! False. Jeez, like okay. Okay, if Vulkan region, travel region. Okay, no. So the current region Vulkan is in, if there's no logistics hub, do something. And then right here, this doesn't matter actually. Vulkan still needs to be idle. So if Vulkan is idle, it means it's not traveling at all, which means we can check both of these, no problem. Right, and we can do the same thing here now. Yeah, we don't have to worry about the case where Vulkan can be traveling in two ways. It could be traveling in two ways, that's fine, but we're just checking for the idle state. As long as we are in the idle state, it means we are open for business when it comes to constructing. Okay. Now, everything else should still work fine. So is constructing equals false. Okay, so here we just need to make sure. Okay, so when we set is constructing to false, that essentially means we are finished with construction, right? Here we just check it. Here we say set it to true. Okay, so once we set build structure to true, that means Vulkan should also be switched to constructing state. Same with node. Okay, build. Okay, this is just our timer stuff that happens. So finish structure happens, and when we finish a structure, we set constructing to false. The same with the node. Okay, so it's only happening in two places. That's perfect because when we set it to false, Vulkan can set its state back to idle, no problem, because we finished our construction. Okay. And now we kind of don't even need this anymore. To be honest. We don't actually need this. Okay, but let's just keep it there for now. Now, let's go think about Vulkan. So, the state can now change in many different ways. So we can change from constructing to traveling, and each time this happens, and this is now where the beauty happens, right? Each time we try to set the state, we can do a on-state change, right? So we can do a public event action on, let's call it Vulkan state change. You know what? It's only gonna ever be Vulkan, so that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so on state change, and when we set the state, it doesn't have to change to fire this. There are some ways it doesn't change. So when we are constructing, and we're not trying to go to idle, it doesn't change, but it's okay if it thinks it changes. So I'll invoke it still. Right, so we tried to change the state. So we invoke. Okay. Now what this allows us to do is in our view model, we can now do this. We can go node.Vulkan. Let's read only. Get private I don't know what that does. I don't think I can do this now. Vulkan equals... It's only read only. Okay, yeah. So I forgot what this means, but I think if you don't put the set there, even private set means you can change it inside this class. No set means you can set it only in the constructor, and that's it, and then you're done, right? But that's all I want. I just want it set in the constructor, and then I want to get references to it, right? So this is perfect. So now we can get Vulkan, and we can do dot on state change plus equals Vulkan on state change. Boom. Now this is good because now we can get on state change. We know something happened when we changed the state. And essentially what happens was, you know, something moved about, so we can check if we can build structures or nodes. Right, so we can have a private void set buildable structure. Right, and we can also have private void enable node buttons. Something like this, right? And we can essentially tell this thing, set buildable structure enable node buttons. So we can go if don't need to do this here. I can do this in our view, right? set buildable structure and enable node buttons. Just make them public so that my view model can access them. Something like this. And the buildable structure might need something like a structure definition SO. Right, and the enable node buttons don't really need anything. Okay, so in the view button, so now we can do the following. We could just call view dot set buildable structure, and we want to get node dot buildable structure. Okay, so that returns hey Astro Raxar. The game is about building a massive logistical and manufacturing industry in space. Jeez, like it. Look at all my errors right now. But yeah, so the point, the idea is something like you go around, right? You build outposts at different planets and in the solar system. They can mine the resources available in that area. They can also process the resources. But the key thing is, well, there's a few things. So the things I want you to be doing. So if you think about a 4X game, right? So a proper complicated 4X strategy game, there's obviously a bunch of stuff that you need to manage. So I'm taking a small subsection, which is economy, essentially, and I'm delving into the logistics of such an economy. So if you think about Stellaris, for instance, right, that game abstracts away logistics essentially completely. You don't need to worry about how food and minerals and energy move between planets and things like that. It's completely abstracted away. But you need to worry about politics and all other kinds of stuff, right? But here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on the logistics instead. So that you need to build the logistics and plan the logistics and have manage basically the logistics on a solar system level. So you're going to be having your little ships flying up and down between planets. So you might need fuel at some of the inner planets, but you mine it predominantly at Jupiter, right? So you have these fuel tankers essentially moving up and down. So that's kind of just the idea, is to zoom in on a specific mechanic that gets overlooked in a lot of 4X games. The planets will not be moving, no. I do simulate the distances accurately in terms of astronomical units. So when you move about, you'll actually notice like time dilation or something like that happening, where they get out here, they are slower, but visually the planets are in the same positions. I thought about making the planets move, but that's quite complicated, and it breaks. It obviously adds realism, but it's not necessarily fun, right? Because you lose the predictability and things like that of your logistics. So for instance, if this distance from Jupiter, you can plan, right? You can think about, okay, Jupiter is my fuel refinery hub, and it produces enough fuel to supply all the logistics across the entire solar system, right? Let's say that's the thing. And then you need to plan for when, for instance, Jupiter moves out of the way, and the logistical, the time it takes for things to get to Jupiter or from Jupiter to the other planets all of a sudden increased by a significant amount, and then your industry starts collapsing because you don't have enough resources in terms of fuel necessarily to keep everything going. So it adds a lot of complexity that I'm not sure is fun, right? Now, perhaps it is fun, and there might be a certain subset of people who think that that additional layer of complexity is fantastic. But I'm going to assume that more people would prefer a simpler game. Right? And it's also easier to develop the simpler version, so I'm doing the simpler version first. Then we can play test, we can see how it goes, and if it's nice and people like it that way, why change? Why not? Why fix what ain't broken, right? But no, like you said, we can learn on our way there, right? If it's fun or not. Because the logistics is already going to be quite complicated, right? You need to plan. First of all, you need to build the ships physically that are going to be transporting the resources. Then you need to assign them to different logistics hubs. You need to set up where things go, etc. So all of that needs to happen, right? So there's quite a bit of planning involved, and it can feel quite complicated even without planets moving about. I haven't actually gotten. I've played versions of the game, but I haven't actually gotten to the point where all those additional systems are completely implemented. Turns out it's a lot of work to make a playable game. But I've played little versions of the game where you can at least mine and you can build modules and you can process materials and manufacture things, and so I've gotten like the manufacturing loop going, and I'm currently busy getting the outpost and logistic hub loop working, so building those structures in space. And once I can build those structures, I can get the actual logistics ships moving about. This is actually what the ships are going to look like. So I'm also thinking it should feel like a nice little idle game in some way, right? And you have these little blue dots moving about. Something like mini motorways or something like that. We just have these nice little moving pictures with sounds that are cute and nothing hectic, right? It's chill. Yes, you need to be managing this stuff carefully, but I mean, it's space. Everything takes a while, so there's no rush. But yeah, generally speaking, I love playing these types of games. And I've had fun playing the parts of the game that work. Yeah, I'm currently working towards just getting the complete loop working. My UI is going to look terrible. My art is not going to be existing, but at least then I can start feeling the entire loop working or not working. I have made games before this. The only game that I finished was a little Chicken Knight game. That's what I called it on itch. I wouldn't say it's finished, right? I mean it's playable, and it's uploaded onto itch. I made it in Godot back in the day, just a little 2D Vampire Survivors like game, right? Then I started working on Aviorum, which was the next level of that same game. But it became way more complicated, and I got a little bit overwhelmed with scope creep and all other kinds of nonsense, so I eventually parked that game for a bit. Also, the art got quite heavy. Like, I needed so much art and visual effects and all these things, and I'm just not that guy. So I decided, I would park that game a little bit until I can get my artist back. In this game, the art is quite basic. Visual effects won't be super crazy, so I feel like I have a better chance of finishing this one. Also, it's a very systems simulation heavy game, so most of it is just code, which is what I'm happy to do, right? So I switched to Unity mostly because I had massive performance issues in Godot. It just wasn't doing the things I wanted it to do. So when I published that game on itch, one of the guys who actually played the game, because he played it up to the point where the game would literally just break apart because it was lagging so badly. And I tried so many things to optimize that, but it seemed like, Godot just doesn't have the tools you'd need to make a game like that work effectively. Or maybe I just didn't know about the tools, but it didn't seem like there were any. Where Unity has, the whole dots ecosystem, which I can't use it yet, but at least back then, even without dots, Unity was much more performant. For some reason, I'm not sure why. Even with my bad code, right? The Unity game performed better. And there were many ways to improve my code to even get more efficiency out of Unity. So that's why I went with Unity, essentially. Okay. So where was I? Okay, so this returns a structure definition, which we don't want. We want a structure definition SO. Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to go to a game data.instance.definition SOs. Right, I think this is a... What is this? What is definition SOs? Let's just open game data again. Okay, so we just give it a string. So if we plug in an ID, so we go node.buildable structure dot ID. As structure definition SO, right? Okay, so the problem here now is this might be null. So let's just do structure definition equals node dot okay, and then we can check if structure definition is not equal to null. We can try this, right? If it's null, obviously we don't have a buildable structure. Yeah, because it needs a definition SO. And the reason it needs a definition SO is because obviously we're going to have an icon associated with this, and the definition itself doesn't have the icons. The structure, the scriptable object has that. So we need to send it a scriptable object from the get-go. And if it is null, then I guess we could just hide it instead, right? Because then set buildable structure let's just go public void hide buildable structure button. Right, and essentially what that does is we just go buildable structure button dot style equals style dot flex, not flex grow, just flex. Is it display? No, it's display. Display style dot none. Right, okay. Yeah. That's where the flex came from. So we set it to none, and then if we actually get a buildable structure, we need to set it to flex, and then we need to change some things inside of it, right? So currently my buildable structure has an icon and a structure name, so we need to set those two things. So build structure button dot q visual element called icon, right, dot style dot background image equals I think it's style background. Yeah. As sprite, right? What am I doing wrong? Oh, I need to do new style background. Yeah. So we set that, and then we do this one would be a label called structure name dot text equals string formatter dot capital letters ID. Righto. Something like that. That's pretty good. Okay, so now we set the buildable structure, icon, and the label text, and that's good. Now, if we can't do this, we just hide the button, right? But that's now our view models problem. Else, okay, so if it's not equal to null, we do that. Otherwise, we go view dot hide buildable structure button. We just get rid of it, right? Okay. So that's now on state change. We do one of these two things, right? We try to get our structure definition, and if we can, great. If we can't, well, too bad. Right, now, another thing we could do is get our okay, so that's now that part. We can also do can build node. I could fix this. Yeah, I might go fix that. So if can build, no, if node dot can build node. So if we can build a node, we need to do enable node buttons, and I guess we'll just duplicate this. Oh my greatness. Oh wait, it figured it out. Disable node buttons, right? That's the two things we want to do. And that'll essentially just be all these buttons, right? Need to do something with them. But okay, yeah, this is now where things go a bit bad. So the node buttons exist, although they can't really exist currently because they weren't given a node to be able to exist. So I started fiddling with this problem and then I stopped, right? Because I figured it was too much of a hassle. I guess. Okay. You know what? That's been 3 hours. I'm gonna call it there. I'm not gonna push it any further. Yeah, okay, so this node issue is gonna become a big problem now. I might have to make a new type of element that doesn't work with a node, but maybe a node definition, which is probably the right call. Okay. Or I need to edit the node button element to work with either, depending on how you make it, right? Yeah. Okay, so I might make it just work with either. That could be straightforward, I think. I hope. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's see if there's anybody around to raid. Cheers, Brody. You're not gonna go with for the raid, unfortunately. Eh? Anybody worth raiding right now? We'll go say hi to Ice Bear Bear. Me and... Oh, wait. You know what? Never mind. Guys, I will see you tomorrow. Where's OBS? Let me just get OBS. There we go. Cheerio. Ending screen. That's it. Yeah. Cheers, guys.